why an East Coast 3PL might actually make sense for your Amazon business. So I've been having a lot of conversation with merchants, and one of the most controversial things that we're talking about is why East Coast facilities actually make a lot more sense. So for context, we ship tens of millions of items a month going into Amazon. We're a very big partner to Amazon FBA. So, we're shipping in tens of millions of dollars of goods. And so what we've seen is that most of our merchants want to use our West Coast facility. So we have facilities across the West Coast, specifically in California, like Long Island, and we bulk store in California, and then we feed Amazon FBA. And what we saw last year was that going into Q4, Amazon completely bottlenecked their entire West Coast operation. And so what we've been doing over this year was pivoting a lot of our inventory and brands over to the East Coast, going into Q4 last year, which by that time it was already too late. So what we've been telling a lot of our larger merchants was that whether they utilize multiple facilities or we pay the extra cost to get it to the East Coast, it is a strategy that's a little bit stronger for the brand. Now, let me explain. Amazon East Coast facilities, we analyze inbound speeds across 50 plus warehouses across the country. We do a lot of volume going to Amazon, so we get to see all this data. East Coast facilities overly outperform any West Coast hub. When we go into Q4, it is usually a 2 to 3x in comparison in terms of inbound speed. And this is before lockouts, inbound blackout periods, or doors getting shut at specific Amazon FBA facilities, whether that's FBA or Amazon AWD. So our conversations actually, firstly, were around, hey, maybe you just use a ship from address on the East Coast and pay for the freight costs from our California over to the East Coast. But now we actually have some merchants that, yeah, we're paying for it, but we're actually keeping stock in our Kentucky warehouse or Alabama or Pennsylvania or Chicago. There's two benefits. One, we get faster inbound times and less risk going into Q4 because majority of our splits for Amazon are going to happen on the East Coast, which means faster check-ins, out of stock issues, all of those things are getting solved accordingly. But it's also on top of that is that East Coast storage is going to be cheaper. California is one of the most expensive places in the world. I say it's like Toronto, Vancouver. These are very premium real estate, which means we have to charge a little bit more on the storage side versus something like our Alabama or Kentucky facility. These are meant for bulk storage, which means that we have a lot more space, which means that we can get it for cheaper, labor's cheaper, and we can pass those savings over to the merchant. So they get cheaper storage, they get to diversify risk going into the East Coast for costings, but also Amazon speed and check-in times. So it's a conversation that we're having for a lot more merchants. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to remove our West Coast. Most brands want to utilize a multi-warehouse infrastructure network with us, which we love the idea. And for D2C, it makes a lot of sense. But specifically for Amazon FBA going into Q4, if they're using West Coast, we're either going to start storing stock in the East Coast. If they haven't started with us, we're actually advising to send all their stock to the East Coast if we can afford to keep it here. Because even though there's more transit costs, we're going to save it in storage costs because it's going to be cheaper storing it in one of our facilities over there. And more importantly, freight costs will go down and speed to Amazon, which is the key metric that we're obsessing on going into Q4, will drastically speed up going to East Coast facilities. Now, this does not make sense for every brand, but it's something that I've been reflecting on as I go through. I speak to, dozens of brands every single week, and something that we're starting to have a lot more conversations around. What do you think? Is that a strategy that makes sense if you're dominantly on Amazon? And what would you do to tackle some of these inbound challenges?